Hi everyone, I'm Ellie from Ellie's Exotics, and today we are going to be revamping and upgrading my Crested Gecko. Cheese is more than ready for an upgrade, so come with me as I design his beautiful new enclosure from VIPERIA. I have spent weeks gathering materials, building the enclosure, so make sure you stick around until the end so you can see how this enclosure turned out. Let's get right into it. I started out by choosing what wood would go in which enclosure because I'm doing two enclosures here, but obviously one enclosure for this video, so you'll have to subscribe to see what the other enclosure is going to be. Then I just chose the placements of the wood, so I was kind of faffing about, you know, seeing what I liked, and ProRep actually sent me these really nice log rounds, which you'll see in a second, but it was slightly too large, so I cut it in half and I placed them facing upwards because I thought these would make amazing natural hiding spots for Cheese, my Crested Gecko. He loves curling up inside of his coconut, but I'm not able to put that in this enclosure, so I think that this will make a great replacement for that. Then we took a quick photo of the layout so we wouldn't forget. We took a few bits out and we started expanding foaming. So I'm using the Tiger Landscape foam, which is black. It being black definitely helps in my case because of the method that I'm using for the background. And once all of the foam was done, then I added the pieces of cork bark back in so the foam could expand onto it and not cover it too much. And I added in the flower pot as well. This is my first time putting a plant in a background, so hopefully it does well. So the method that I am using is expanding foam, and then you just pop the cocoa fiber straight onto the background. I have done this before and it is so hit and miss. Sometimes it looks really good and sometimes none of the cocoa fiber sticks, but here's how it looked and here's how messy the room looked. So let's clean that up a little bit. Okay, so those are the backgrounds done. That is part one done. Now is the horrible part, the waiting part, because they can look amazing like this, but then you can flip them up and it looks totally different and it just looks awful. I have had that happen before, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. Now I'm gonna be too busy over the next 2 days to flip them up, so I'm just gonna let them sit as long as possible, I think, and fingers crossed it all turns out okay. So I'll be back in 2 days when it's time to flip them up. So a couple days later, I went in and I flipped up the enclosure, and honestly, this is just the most nerve-wracking bit because sometimes you'll tip it up and like all of the cocoa fiber will fall off. Now, there were some bold spots, but overall, it looked pretty good. I don't mind a couple of bold spots because it's going to be fully planted anyway. Now it's time to take the enclosure into the reptile room. So this enclosure is from VIPERIA and it's made of PVC, I believe, and I absolutely love it. Thank you, VIPERIA, for gifting this to me. If you would like your own VIPERIA enclosure, then you can use the link in the description to go and check them out. They have loads of different sizes. So now it's time to add in his lighting. He is getting a 7% shade dweller unit, and I'm popping that on the top, and he's also getting a plant light as well. He's not got a heat source at the moment because it is summer in the UK, and I honestly think he would overheat, but he will be getting one in winter. When you tip up the background, you'll have quite a lot of cocoa fiber fall off. This is normal, but now I'm just cleaning it all up and getting rid of it before adding in the drainage layer. For the drainage layer, I'm using the BioLife balls from ProRep. Thank you, ProRep, for sending me so much stuff for this build. It would not be possible without it. A drainage layer in this type of setup is absolutely crucial. It stops your plants from getting root rot and also stops the substrate from waterlogging. As for substrate, we are using Crested Life by ProRep, and one bag was perfect for this enclosure. Just for reference, it is 45 by 45 by 90 tall. Crested Life is a great substrate for Crested Geckos because it takes away the faff of mixing up your own topsoil and sand and cocoa fiber and things like that. It is straight in a bag and ready to go, so it's great. After giving the enclosure a bit of a wipe down, it was time to have a think about where I wanted my plants to go. I knew I wanted this bromeliad in that center place where I put the little plant pot, but ProRep also sent me an umbrella plant and a snake plant as well. So I was just sussing things out, you know, seeing what sorts of placements I liked. And I also decided I wanted a bit of pothos in this because it would like trail up the background. So I stole some from Big Mac's enclosure. I just snipped a little bit off and I fixed that to the background. So now I'm adding the plants themselves into the enclosure, and one thing that is crucial when setting up a bioactive enclosure is making sure that you quarantine your plants. I quarantine my plants for a few weeks to a month before putting them in, not just for the plant's health and what it's going to be around, but also for your animal's health. Especially if you are getting your plants from garden centers like I do sometimes, you just have to be so careful, and quarantining them, taking them out of fertilized soil will definitely take away any risk. Now I'm popping in the leaf litter. I love ProRep's leaf litter specifically because the leaves are really big, so it provides not just a food source for the cleanup crew, but also a really nice place for them to hide away and feel nice and safe, especially in a setup like this, which won't have a big water bowl that they can hide underneath. And speaking of hiding, I put some fake plants into the enclosure too, just whilst the other ones grow out. When setting up a Crested Gecko enclosure, you want as much coverage as possible. They aren't the bravest animals, especially during the day, so make sure that your Cresty has lots of different places where they are fully hidden so that they don't get stressed. Now the cleanup crew is going in, I added some dairy cow isopods and some springtails, but I might also eventually add some small worms, like earthworms, into this setup. I have them in my gargoyles and they do really well. It helps aerate the substrate. Then I faffed about with this feeding ledge. I literally have about 15 minutes of footage of me trying to figure out where I wanted this to go. In the end, I just put it on the glass because it wasn't holding very well on the side. And then I faffed about with my new misting system. I kind of realized that it was probably a two-person job and that I am not very good at reading instructions. So let's just pretend that this misting system is all fitted. Now it's just time for the finishing touches, so I got a little bit of expanding foam on the glass, so I just used some feeding tongs to get it off. It probably would have been smarter to use a razor blade. And I also added in this piece of wood. It was slightly too big though, so I brought out the scissors, trimmed a little bit of the branch off, and it fit perfectly. It's a lovely place for cheese to climb on. Then I gave the plants a really heavy misting. Always make sure you do that when you add new plants into an enclosure or plants in general. Just give them a super good spray down. And finally, little Cheese can go into the enclosure. He was very excited about going into his new home, but here is how it looks. Let me know what you think of it down below, and if you are wanting one-to-one advice about crested geckos or any reptile in general, then become a YouTube member today. I will help you with any of your reptile needs on a personal level, but you'll also get early access to my content and priority replies to comments. The link for that will be in the description if you're interested, but now let's sit back, relax, and watch some footage of his new enclosure. So that is everything for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you do subscribe if you did enjoy it, because next we are going to be doing the exact same thing, but for my Mexican black king snake. So stay tuned and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.